Most of the time, the color in embroidery pieces comes from the fabric and floss colors that we select. But occasionally, I like to add some soft background or fill color using colored pencils like what you see here, where all of the stitching was in black with some flowers stitched in colored floss, but then this soft color in the sky, the ground, and the bottom edges of the building was all added in colored pencil. This can also be done with paint, crayons, or markers, but I find colored pencils much less intimidating. They don't spread like paint, they give you more control over the depth of color than markers. It's just much easier and less scary to me. You can apply colored pencil to a smooth fabric like this cotton scrap, basically the same way that you would coloring in on paper. You want to usually lay your fabric down on a flat surface because the pencil will pick up the texture of whatever you're coloring on and apply a little tension as you color. But really with colored pencil, you can just start applying in simple strokes. And then you can step back and decide, oh, I want it to be much darker. Let me apply more pressure. It's really very forgiving as you play around with it. You can also experiment with direction to see if you prefer coloring all in one direction like this, that is all up and down, or in both. This is cross-hatched where I went first one way and then the other way, or swirling around to make a less regular texture or whatever other variations you can think of. Since the pencil will pick up the texture of whatever you're coloring over, I usually am laying my fabric flat on a smooth table to color, but if you want to use texture to your advantage, you can look around your house for textured surfaces. This is just the backside of a flexible cutting mat that I had in the kitchen. And so if we look at this, and we color over it in the exact same kind of strokes we've been using, you can see that it's creating a very different effect by picking up that texture. So you can get creative in that way as well with pencil. So, should you color before, during, or after stitching? It really depends on your stitching method. On this piece, I use dissolvable stabilizer like this that gets applied to the fabric. It means that I have to soak my whole piece after I'm done stitching, and that my fabric is covered with that during stitching. So here I stitched everything first, soaked it to remove the stabilizer, let it dry, and then I added colored pencil as the last step between the stitches, which is kind of nice because it lets you really color within the lines, and the line of the stitch helps stop your pencil in the right place. But you could also color in pencil and then stitch over it if you're not using that kind of stabilizer. This is a black work project that I want to look like a glowing lantern. So I first stitch the outlines to guide where I want to apply color, which is within each of these larger areas. And I don't want color within those thin outlines. All of these areas are going to be covered with tons of black work stitches, so I need to color now before stitching the black work fill in each of those areas. And you can see down in the corner of my fabric that I tested several different shades of yellow trying to decide what color I wanted on this fabric. And I usually look at it inside the house, outside in natural light, on the particular fabric that I'm using, because this is a gray and it really changes the color compared to a white. And I'm coloring this counted or even weave fabric in much the same way that I colored on that smooth cotton fabric, but I'm a little less concerned here about the direction of my strokes because I know that this is mostly going to be covered by stitches at the end. And you can see that the even weave takes color really well, and that those stitch lines are actually helping me stay within the lines, so I'm coloring right up to them as I go. And here's the finished lantern blackwork piece after stitching. So you can see that I colored all of the areas that were to receive the fill and then stitched fill on top of them within the lantern, not applying color into those boundary edges around them. And then for the rays, I did the opposite. I stitched the lines first, and then I just ran my colored pencil along each of those stitches to give it a little bit of glow. And I'll bring it up closer so that you can see that the color just is fairly subtle once the black works over it, but I think it adds a nice glowing effect. So hopefully this video will make you feel comfortable trying colored pencil in your own pieces. Thanks for watching.